Revenge. It's a dish best served cold, and Caitlin Clark has perfected the recipe. For years, she's been underestimated, doubted, and even dismissed by some of the biggest names in basketball. But when she finally got her chance to silence the critics, she didn't just win, she humiliated them. And the biggest name caught in her storm. Legendary coach Geno Auriemma. Yes, that Geno, the UConn coach with multiple national titles, Olympic golds, and a reputation as one of the greatest minds in women's basketball history. For decades, he was untouchable. But now, the Caitlin Clark effect is rewriting the game. From sold-out arenas and record-breaking TV ratings to nil deals worth millions, Caitlin isn't just winning games. She's transforming the business of women's sports. And in the process, she's humbling Geno, not on the court, but in the bank account. The rise of Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark didn't just appear out of nowhere. From the moment she picked up a basketball, it was clear she was different. In high school, she wasn't just scoring, she was dominating. By the time she committed to Iowa, fans already knew she could be special. But no one could have predicted just how far she would take it.at Iowa. Caitlin became a once-in-a-generation star. She wasn't just putting up points, she was rewriting the record books. Step-back threes from the logo, no-look passes that left jaws on the floor, and a competitive fire that reminded fans of legends like Kobe Bryant and Diana Taurasi. And here's the kicker. She wasn't playing for a powerhouse like UConn or South Carolina. She was at Iowa. A good program, sure, but not a dynasty. That's what made her rise even more powerful. She didn't need a giant to stand on. She built her own. Geno Auriemma, the untouchable. To understand Caitlin's impact, you have to understand the giant she humbled. Geno Auriemma is more than just a coach. He's a dynasty builder. At UConn, he turned the Huskies into the gold standard of women's basketball. 11 national championships, dozens of Final Fours, and a pipeline of legends like Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore, and Breanna Stewart. For decades, if you wanted to see greatness, you looked at Geno. His UConn teams didn't just win, they dominated. At one point, they rattled off a 111-game winning streak, something unheard of in sports. But with greatness came control. Geno wasn't just the face of UConn, he was the face of women's basketball. His word carried weight. His players were household names. And for years it seemed like no one could disrupt his empire. While Geno relied on tradition and reputation, Caitlin brought something UConn had never seen before: viral stardom. She didn't just play the game. She owned it, on and off the court. And in doing so, she began to challenge the very foundation Geno had built. Geno Auriemma, the untouchable. To understand Caitlin's impact, you have to understand the giant she humbled. Geno Auriemma is more than just a coach. He's a dynasty builder. At UConn, he turned the Huskies into the gold standard of women's basketball. 11 national championships, dozens of Final Fours, and a pipeline of legends like Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore, and Breanna Stewart. For decades, if you wanted to see greatness, you looked at Geno. His UConn teams didn't just win, they dominated. At one point, they rattled off a 111-game winning streak, something unheard of in sports. But with greatness came control. Geno wasn't just the face of UConn, he was the face of women's basketball. His word carried weight. His players were household names. And for years it seemed like no one could disrupt his empire. The clash of eras. Caitlin Clark's rise didn't just create new headlines, it created a clash of eras. On one side, Geno Auriemma represented the old guard. Dynasty building, controlled success, and decades of recruiting dominance. On the other, Caitlin embodied the new wave of basketball. Individual stardom, viral highlights, nil deals, and social media engagement. It wasn't just about coaching versus playing. It was about philosophy. Geno's empire had always relied on a team-first mentality. No player was bigger than the program. Caitlin flipped that script. She wasn't just part of Iowa basketball. She was Iowa basketball, and she made it work. The more she shone, the more the spotlight shifted. Ratings for Iowa games soared, often surpassing UConn broadcasts. Merchandise with her name flew off the shelves. Every logo 3 she sank became a viral moment, pulling millions of views online. Viral stardom versus old-school dominance. Here's the truth. Caitlin Clark changed the way women's basketball was consumed. Fans didn't just want to watch her play, they wanted to experience Caitlin Clark. Her logo threes, her trash talk, her clutch moments, these weren't just highlights. They were viral currency. Every clip exploded across TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Suddenly, people who had never tuned into women's basketball were watching, and the numbers backed it up. Iowa games featuring Caitlin often drew higher ratings than long-established powerhouses. Geno Auriemma's model, recruit the best, win championships, repeat, was still effective. But it didn't trend. Caitlin did. She became a one-woman marketing machine, pulling attention and sponsorships away from programs that had sat at the top for decades. The NIL revolution point. One of the biggest ways Caitlin humbled Geno came in the NIL era. For decades, players at UConn built fame, but the financial benefits went to the program and the NCAA. Geno had the power, the spotlight, and the money. His players reaped glory, but not wealth. Then came NIL rights, name, image, likeness. Suddenly, players could cash in on their own stardom. And no one took advantage like Caitlin Clark. She inked deals with Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, and more, making her one of the highest-paid college athletes in the country. By some estimates, her NIL valuation soared into the millions. Meanwhile, Geno's model, the Dynasty program, lost leverage. Why? Because players didn't need UConn's brand to get famous anymore. They could build their own empires, just like Caitlin. Breaking records, breaking egos. Numbers don't lie. And Caitlin Clark's numbers are staggering. She didn't just score, she shattered records. By the time she left Iowa, she had broken the NCAA scoring record, dropping buckets at a pace that seemed impossible. Her performances weren't just good games, they were spectacles, 40-point nights, triple-doubles in the tournament, and shots from distances that even NBA stars shook their heads at. And every record she broke was another reminder that the spotlight had shifted. For years, Geno's UConn stars were the face of college basketball. But Caitlin's numbers made even his most legendary players look ordinary in comparison. The humiliation for Geno wasn't just losing attention, it was watching his empire's history books get overshadowed by a player who never came through UConn. The media shift. Once upon a time, every women's basketball headline started with UConn. But during Caitlin Clark's rise, that changed. Suddenly, the national media weren't talking about dynasties. They were talking about her. ESPN, SportsCenter, Bleacher Report. Every outlet plastered Caitlin's highlights across their platforms. She became must-watch television. When Iowa played, ratings spiked. When she spoke, cameras followed. And that's where Geno really felt the sting. For years, he had been the go-to interview, the quote machine, and the face of women's basketball. But now, reporters wanted Caitlin. Sponsors wanted Caitlin. Fans wanted Caitlin. It wasn't just about what happened on the court. Caitlin became a cultural phenomenon. She had crossover appeal, drawing attention from celebrities, NBA stars, and even politicians. Geno's missed opportunity. Here's the irony. Geno Auriemma had the chance to recruit Caitlin Clark. Back in high school, she was on the radar of every major program. UConn, of course, was the crown jewel. But Geno didn't pull the trigger. Some say he didn't see her potential. Others claim she wasn't the UConn type. Whatever the reason, it was a massive miscalculation. Because by passing on Caitlin, Geno didn't just miss out on a star. He missed out on the star who would redefine the sport. Every shot she hit at Iowa, every record she broke, every NIL deal she signed. It all traced back to that missed opportunity. Geno could have had her. Instead, he was forced to watch from the sidelines as she became the face of women's basketball without him. Caitlin Clark, the people's champion. One reason Caitlin resonates so deeply is because she feels real. She didn't come from the flashiest program. She didn't have a dynasty backing her. She built her brand from scratch, and fans loved her for it. She plays with fire, passion, and just the right amount of swagger. When she hits a logo three and stares down an opponent, it's not arrogance, it's confidence. It's authenticity. And fans eat it up. Caitlin became the people's champion. She represented not just Iowa, but every underdog daring to challenge the establishment. She showed you don't need UConn's history to make history of your own. The legacy of PAYBACK. What's the legacy of this clash between Caitlin Clark and Geno Auriemma? Simple. Payback. For years, Caitlin was overlooked. Geno, the king of women's basketball, didn't see her coming. But when she finally arrived, she didn't just prove him wrong, she cost him. In money. In headlines. In history. Caitlin Clark didn't destroy Geno's legacy, but she humbled it. She showed that in today's game, dynasties don't hold all the power, players do. And when one player captures the world's attention the way Caitlin did, even the great Geno Auriemma has to take a back seat.